The signal came during the longest night of Commander Elena Reyes's career. 312 days into the Hyperion's deep space mission, when the edges of the solar system had become indistinguishable from the vast darkness beyond, something answered humanity's endless calling into the void. "Commander, you need to see this." Dr. James Walker's voice crackled through the ship's comm system, pulling Elena from her fitful sleep. The chief xenoarchaeologist rarely used the emergency channel, and never at this hour. Elena pulled herself through the zero-gravity corridor, her movements precise after months in deep space. The research vessel Hyperion had been humanity's most ambitious project, a ship designed to study the mysterious objects that had been appearing at the edge of our solar system over the past decade. The observation deck was unusually crowded when she arrived. Besides Walker, she spotted Dr. Kai Patel at his usual station, his dark eyes fixed on a holographic display that filled half the room. Lieutenant Maria Torres, their security chief, stood in the corner, her expression unreadable. "What am I looking at?" Elena asked, studying the strange patterns that danced across the display. "At first, we thought it was background radiation," Walker explained, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "But look at this." The pattern shifted, revealing a clear geometric structure hidden within the chaos. Kai spoke without looking away from the display. "It's not random noise. These are encoded quantum signatures. Something, put this here deliberately." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. After centuries of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, humanity had convinced itself they were alone. The mysterious objects they'd been studying, crystalline structures that seemed to defy physics, had been assumed to be natural phenomena. "Can you decode it?" she asked. "Already working on it," Kai replied. "But there's something else." He gestured to another display, this one showing their position relative to the solar system. "The signal's getting stronger. Whatever this is, it's not just broadcasting, it's activating." The crystalline structure they'd been studying for the past week was changing. What had appeared to be a simple geometric shape was unfolding like an enormous flower, revealing layers of technology that had been dormant for who knew how long. "Commander," Maria's voice was tense. "Security protocols suggest we should withdraw to a safe distance." Elena understood the lieutenant's concern. Everything about this situation violated their first contact protocols. But something about the signal felt urgent. Like a message that had waited too long to be delivered. "Dr. Walker, your analysis?" The xenoarchaeologist ran his hand through his gray-streaked hair. "The structure's composition matches nothing in our database, but the patterns." He pointed to a recurring sequence in the data. "This is a language. Mathematical, but definitely a language. And it's similar to patterns we found in ancient Earth artifacts." That got everyone's attention. The implications were staggering. If there was a connection between this alien structure and Earth's past, how long to decode it? Elena asked. "Hours, maybe days," Kai answered. "Unless..." He hesitated. "Unless what?" "Unless we accept its invitation." Elena looked at him sharply. "Explain." "The signal, it's not just broadcasting information. It's providing an interface. Like it wants to talk to us directly." The room fell silent. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for generations. First contact. But something about this felt wrong. Too convenient. Too perfect. "Show me everything," Elena commanded, settling into her station. "Every piece of data we've collected since we first spotted this structure. Something brought us here, and I want to know why." As the team worked, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Not just by whatever had created this ancient beacon, but by something else. Something that had been waiting for this moment for a very, very long time. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. The Hyperion's computers worked overtime, processing the flood of data from the alien structure. Each new discovery raised more questions than answers. "Commander," Kai called out, his voice tight with excitement or fear, Elena couldn't tell which. "I think we've got something." The main display filled with a new pattern, this one clearly artificial. Symbols arranged in precise geometric patterns, flowing like water across the screen. "It's a warning," Walker whispered, his face pale in the blue light of the display. "My God, it's been here all along." Before Elena could ask what he meant, every screen on the observation deck went dark. Then, one by one, they came back to life, displaying a single message in every human language. "You are not ready. But you have no choice. The sleepers have awakened." The crystalline structure pulsed with blinding light, and in that moment, Elena Reyes understood two things with perfect clarity: humanity was not alone in the universe, and their solitude had been their last protection. The signal had been found. But what they had really discovered was the end of human innocence, and perhaps, the beginning of their last chance for survival. As the Hyperion systems struggled to process the flood of incoming data, Elena made a decision that would change the course of human history. "All hands," she announced, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her gut. "Prepare for full data reception. Whatever's out there, whatever this warning means, we need to know. The time for caution is over." The ancient beacon pulsed again, and the void between the stars seemed to whisper, "Welcome to the truth." The data streamed into the Hyperion systems like a digital flood, threatening to overwhelm their quantum processors. Dr. Kai Patel hadn't slept in 36 hours, his eyes burning as he stared at the cascading symbols that filled every screen in the ship's primary research lab. "This can't be right," he muttered, running another verification sequence. "This has to be a mistake." Behind him, Commander Elena Reyes watched the ancient alien data unfold with growing unease. The past 24 hours had transformed their routine research mission into something else entirely. Something darker. "Talk to me, Doctor," she commanded. "What are we looking at?" Kai's fingers danced across his haptic interface, bringing up a three-dimensional representation of what they'd started calling the archive. It's a history. But not just any history. He gestured at the holographic display, where countless strands of information intertwined like DNA helices. "It's our history. Humanity's history. But not the version we know." Dr. Walker stepped forward, his weathered face illuminated by the ethereal glow of the alien data. "The artifacts we've been finding on Earth, the ones that never quite fit our understanding of human development, they weren't anomalies. They were breadcrumbs." "Breadcrumbs leading where?" Lieutenant Torres asked, her hand unconsciously resting on her sidearm. "To this moment," Kai answered. "This revelation." He brought up another display, this one showing a timeline that stretched back millions of years. "We weren't the first. We weren't even close to being the first." Elena leaned closer, studying the intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. "First what?" "First civilization to face the choice," Walker explained, his voice barely above a whisper. "The archive, it's a record of every species that's reached this point. The point where they have to decide." "Decide what?" Elena demanded, but deep in her gut, she already knew. The knowledge was there, buried in human DNA, written in the very stones of Earth, the memory of a choice made long ago. Kai's next words confirmed her fears. Whether to sleep or to wake. Whether to remain in blissful ignorance or to face what's really out there. He pointed to a specific section of the data stream. "Look at these patterns. They're not just similar to human neural networks, they are human neural networks. Or at least, what human consciousness looked like before." "Before what?" "Before we chose sleep. Before we chose to forget." The revelation hit Elena like a physical blow. The implications were staggering. If what they were seeing was true, then human civilization, perhaps human consciousness itself, was not a natural evolution but a deliberate regression. A hiding place. How long, she asked. How long have we been asleep? Walker consulted the data. According to this, the last time humanity faced the choice was approximately 300,000 years ago. We chose to reduce ourselves. To become simpler, more primitive. To hide. Hide from what? Before anyone could answer, the ship's emergency systems activated. Red warning lights bathed the lab in crimson as Lieutenant Torres's security console erupted with alerts. Multiple contacts, she shouted. Something's coming through whatever that thing out there is doing to spacetime. The main viewport showed it clearly, tears in the fabric of reality itself, opening like wounds in the void. And through those wounds came shapes that shouldn't exist, geometries that made the mind recoil. They're coming, Kai whispered, his eyes fixed on the ancient data still streaming across his screens. The ones we've been hiding from. The ones every civilization eventually has to face. The sleepers, Walker added, his voice trembling. But not our sleep. Theirs. Elena watched as the impossible shapes drew closer to the Hyperion, their very presence causing the ship's reality stabilizers to scream in protest. The archive's warning made terrible sense now. Humanity had chosen sleep once before, chosen to hide from these entities by becoming something simpler, something beneath their notice. But that option was gone now. The ancient beacon had awakened something in human consciousness, or perhaps it had merely removed the veil that had been placed there eons ago. Either way, there was no going back. All hands, Elena announced over the ship-wide comm battle stations. And someone get me Earth on the quantum link. They need to know. Know what? Torres asked, her weapon systems already tracking the approaching entities. That humanity's long night is over. And this time, we don't have the luxury of choosing sleep. The entities drew closer, their forms shifting in ways that defied physics and sanity alike. Within the archive, new data began to appear, information that had been waiting for this exact moment, this precise confluence of events. Commander, Kai called out, his voice steady despite the terror evident in his eyes. The archive, it's showing us something else now. Something about what we really are. What we were before we chose to sleep. Elena moved to his station, watching as ancient knowledge began to unlock itself in response to the approaching threat. Whatever humanity had been before their great sleep, whatever powers they had possessed, they were about to remember. The question was, would that remembrance come in time to face what was awakening in the dark between the stars? The quantum transmission from the Hyperion took 17 minutes to reach Earth. It took the World Council less than 5 minutes to declare a global state of emergency. Admiral Marcus Zhang stood before the hastily assembled emergency session, his holographic form projected into secure bunkers and command centers across the globe. The faces of world leaders stared back at him, their expressions ranging from disbelief to terror as they processed the implications of the Hyperion's discovery. The entities approaching our research vessel appear to be just the advance guard, Zhang explained, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around him. But they're not our primary concern. What Commander Reyes and her team have uncovered in the archive changes everything we thought we knew about human history. You expect us to believe this? The Russian premier's hologram flickered with interference. That humanity deliberately devolved? That we chose to become primitive? The evidence is irrefutable, Dr. Maya Henderson interrupted. The head of Earth's Xenoarchaeological Institute manipulated her own holographic controls, bringing up data streams from the Hyperion. The archive isn't just telling us about our past, it's reactivating dormant sections of human consciousness. People across the globe are already experiencing the changes. She wasn't exaggerating. Reports were flooding in from every continent, people awakening with memories that couldn't be their own, understanding languages that had never existed in recorded history, seeing patterns in reality that human minds shouldn't be able to perceive. We're not devolving, Maya continued. We're remembering. What we were. What we could be again. She paused, her dark eyes scanning the assembled leaders. What we need to be if we're going to survive what's coming. The African Union representative leaned forward. And what exactly is coming, Doctor? Before Maya could answer, every electronic device in every bunker flickered simultaneously. The holographic displays warped, showing impossible geometries for a fraction of a second before stabilizing. That, Admiral Zhang said grimly, was a ripple effect. The entities approaching the Hyperion, their very presence distorts spacetime. And they're not just heading for our research vessel anymore. Long-range sensors are detecting similar anomalies throughout the solar system. Whatever was sleeping out there, it's waking up. Then we evacuate, someone suggested. We have the colony ships dash. There's nowhere to run, Maya cut in. The archive is clear about this. These entities exist outside normal spacetime. Distance means nothing to them. We faced them before, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Our ancestors had two choices: fight and likely be destroyed, or hide by fundamentally changing what we were. They chose to hide, to make humanity something so simple, so primitive that we would be beneath notice. And now? Now we don't have that option. The beacon the Hyperion found, it wasn't just a warning. It was a key, triggering changes in human consciousness that can't be undone. We're remembering what we were, and the entities can sense it. They know we're here. The room erupted in argument, but fell silent as new data streamed in from the Hyperion. Commander Reyes's face appeared in the center of the chamber, her expression grim but determined. Council members, she began, we've decoded more of the archive. What we're facing, they're called the Morphants. They don't just destroy civilizations, they consume them, absorb them into their collective consciousness. But the archive shows something else, something our ancestors discovered before they chose to hide. She paused, and for a moment, the assembled leaders could see something strange in her eyes, an ancient knowledge awakening. The Morphants aren't invincible. They're powerful, yes, but they have a weakness. They can't create, they can only consume and corrupt. But humanity, the old humanity, what we were before the sleep, we could create reality itself. Maya stepped forward, her own eyes showing the same strange light. The changes people are experiencing, they're not random. The archive isn't just giving us information. It's reactivating abilities that were deliberately suppressed. The ability to manipulate quantum fields, to shape reality through conscious will, to access dimensional spaces that our current science can't even comprehend. You're talking about magic, the Chinese president scoffed. I'm talking about technology so advanced it would appear as magic to our sleep-dulled minds, Maya corrected. Technology that was built into our very DNA, waiting to be reawakened. The same technology that allowed our ancestors to choose sleep, and might now be our only hope of survival. Admiral Zhang watched as understanding dawned on the faces around him. The choice humanity faced now was not whether to fight or hide, that decision had been made the moment the Hyperion found the beacon. The real choice was whether to embrace what they were becoming, what they had once been, or try to cling to the comfortable limitations of their sleeping state. As if to emphasize the point, another ripple passed through reality. This time, those who were awakening fastest, like Maya and the Hyperion's crew, saw it for what it was, a warning shot from beings that existed in dimensions humanity had chosen to forget. We don't have much time, Commander Reyes's hologram warned. The Morphants are approaching faster than we predicted. Within hours, they'll be close enough to begin their consumption of our reality. We need to decide now, do we embrace the awakening, with all its unknown dangers? Or do we face extinction as we are? The choice hung in the air like a physical thing, as reality itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for humanity's answer. The first wave of changes swept across Earth like an invisible tsunami. Dr. Maya Henderson stood at the window of the Xenoarchaeological Institute's main observatory, watching as the sky itself seemed to ripple with new colors, colors that human eyes shouldn't have been able to see. Status report. Admiral Zhang's voice crackled through the quantum calm. Even the most advanced human technology was beginning to struggle as reality itself became increasingly unstable. The awakening is accelerating, Maya replied, her consciousness expanding with each passing moment. The memories were flooding back now, not just her own, but the collective knowledge of what humanity had once been. We're seeing widespread manifestation of abilities. Some people are adapting faster than others. Outside, the evidence was impossible to ignore. In cities across the globe, people were discovering they could perceive multiple dimensions simultaneously. Children were speaking languages that hadn't existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Scientists were understanding mathematical concepts that their minds shouldn't have been able to grasp. But there was a price. Casualty reports coming in, Zhang informed her grimly. Not everyone is surviving the transformation. Some minds aren't able to handle the expansion. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of each loss. They had known this might happen, the archive had warned them. The choice to devolve had been made by their ancestors for a reason. The human mind had been deliberately simplified, streamlined to hide from the Morphants. Reversing that process in a matter of hours instead of generations was like trying to run a quantum computer's programs on ancient hardware. The Hyperion just sent new data, Zhang continued. The Morphants are accelerating their approach. Commander Reyes estimates we have less than 6 hours before first contact. Maya turned from the window, her movement leaving trails of quantum probability in the air, another sign of humanity's awakening awareness of higher dimensions. Show me. The holographic display materialized, showing the Hyperion's position at the edge of the solar system. The ship was surrounded by distortions in space-time, tears in reality through which the Morphants were beginning to emerge. Commander Reyes, Maya called out. Are you seeing this? Elena Reyes's image appeared, her form flickering with energies that hadn't existed in normal space just hours ago. We're seeing it. The archive was right, they're not just entities, they're living abstractions. They exist in dimensions we're only beginning to remember. The footage from the Hyperion showed it clearly now. The Morphants weren't ships or beings in any conventional sense. They were living equations, geometric impossibilities that moved through reality like viruses through a computer program, corrupting and consuming everything they touched. But we have something they don't, Elena continued, her voice strong despite the strain evident on her face. The archive didn't just give us back our memories, it gave us back our purpose. Dr. Kai Patel's voice joined the transmission. The quantum resonance patterns are stabilizing. Those of us who've fully awakened, we're starting to remember how to manipulate the base code of reality itself. As if to demonstrate, Kai raised his hand. The space around the Hyperion twisted, forming patterns that matched the Morphant's own impossible geometries. For a moment, the approaching entities hesitated. They recognize what we're becoming, Maya realized. They remember us. Not what we are now, but what we were. What we're becoming again. Across Earth, those who were surviving the transformation were beginning to understand. Humanity hadn't evolved merely to hide, they had hidden because they needed time. Time for something to mature, to evolve within their simplified forms. The archive, Elena's voice was filled with wonder. It's not just a record or a warning. It's a seed. Our ancestors didn't just choose to sleep, they planted themselves in simpler forms, knowing that when we finally awoke, we would be something new, Maya finished. Something even the Morphants haven't encountered before. The proof was manifesting all around them. Those who had survived the initial shock of awakening were discovering abilities that went beyond even what the archive had recorded. They weren't just remembering what they had been, they were becoming something more. But time was running out. The Morphants had recovered from their initial hesitation and were pressing forward again. Reality buckled around them as they approached, their very presence threatening to unravel the fabric of spacetime. "Admiral," Elena's voice was urgent now. "We need to coordinate the awakened ones. If we're going to have any chance against them, we need to remember how to fight as one consciousness." Zhang nodded, his own form beginning to shimmer with newly awakened energies. "Already on it. We're establishing quantum resonance networks between all major population centers. Those who've survived the transformation are linking minds as we speak." Maya felt it, the growing connection between awakened minds. It was like nothing human consciousness had experienced in hundreds of thousands of years. They were becoming a symphony of thought and will, each individual mind contributing to something greater than themselves. But the Morphants were almost upon them. The Hyperion sensors showed them crossing Neptune's orbit, their impossible forms casting shadows through dimensions that human mathematics was only beginning to describe again. "1 hour, Elena announced, her voice echoing through the quantum network of awakened minds. 1 hour until they reach Earth. Whatever we're becoming, whatever power we're remembering, we need to become it faster." Maya looked out at the transforming world, where reality itself seemed to be holding its breath. The next hour would determine not just humanity's fate, but whether the universe would belong to those who could only consume and destroy, or those who could create and transform. The final battle for humanity's soul was about to begin, and this time, there would be no hiding from it. Time fractured as the Morphants breached Mars' orbit. Reality itself seemed to splinter under their approach, dimensions folding and unfolding like origami in the hands of a mad god. On Earth, the awakened ones watched through senses that would have been impossible just days ago. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the Hyperion's bridge, her consciousness expanded far beyond her physical form. Through the quantum resonance network, she was simultaneously present in every major command center on Earth, her thoughts merging with those of Admiral Zhang, Dr. Maya Henderson, and the millions of others who had survived the transformation. "They're trying to isolate us," Dr. Kai Patel's voice resonated through multiple dimensions. "Breaking down the barriers between realities, trying to force us to experience all possible timelines at once. It's how they consume civilizations, by overwhelming them with infinite possibilities until their consciousness fragments." But humanity had an advantage the Morphants hadn't counted on. The long sleep, the deliberate simplification of human consciousness, hadn't just been about hiding. It had been about distillation. "We understand now," Maya's thoughts rippled through the network. "Our ancestors didn't just choose to become simpler. They compressed all that knowledge, all that power, into a seed of pure potential. And now that seed was blooming. Across Earth, the awakened ones were discovering abilities that went beyond even what their ancestors had possessed. They weren't just remembering what they had been, they were becoming something entirely new. The Morphants reached the moon, their presence causing lunar matter to shift through multiple states of existence simultaneously. But humanity was ready. All awakened ones, Admiral Zhang's command resonated through the quantum network. "Initialize the convergence protocol." It was something they had discovered in the deepest layers of the archive, not just information, but a blueprint for transformation embedded in human DNA itself. As one, millions of awakened minds reached out, their consciousness interweaving into something greater than the sum of its parts. The Morphants paused in their advance, sensing something they had never encountered before in all their eons of consuming civilizations. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were changing the rules of reality itself. "We see you," Elena projected, her thoughts carrying the weight of millions. "We remember what we were, but more importantly, we know what we are becoming." The Morphants responded with a wave of dimensional corruption that would have shattered any normal consciousness. But humanity's long sleep had prepared them for this moment in ways even they were only beginning to understand. The compression, Kai realized, the knowledge flowing through the network. "Our ancestors didn't just hide our power, they crystallized it. Refined it. Like a diamond formed under pressure. The awakened ones moved as one, their combined consciousness forming patterns that the Morphants couldn't corrupt because they had never seen them before. This wasn't the technology of humanity's past, but something new, something born from the fusion of ancient knowledge and evolutionary potential. You consume, Maya's thoughts rang out. But we create. You corrupt, but we transform. And most importantly. She paused as the full understanding of humanity's purpose flooded through the network. We remember. The Morphants struck, their attack bending reality into shapes that should have destroyed any living mind. But humanity's consciousness expanded to meet them, not as individuals, not even as a species, but as something that had been waiting to be born for 300,000 years. The sleep wasn't surrender, Elena announced, understanding flooding through her. It was incubation. The quantum network blazed with power as humanity's true potential finally awakened. They weren't fighting the Morphants, they were rewriting the very rules the Morphants used to exist. Creating new dimensions, new laws of physics, new ways of being that the cosmic horrors couldn't comprehend or corrupt. The Morphants reeled, experiencing for the first time something they had forgotten was possible: confusion. They had consumed countless civilizations, absorbed endless variations of consciousness, but they had never encountered anything like this. Because this wasn't just another civilization defending itself. This was something new being born into the universe. We are the dream that reality has of itself, the awakened ones spoke as one. We are what happens when consciousness chooses to evolve rather than simply survive. The Morphants tried to retreat, but it was too late. The same process they had used to consume so many civilizations was being turned back on them, not to destroy them, but to transform them. This was always our purpose, Maya realized, the knowledge flowing through the network. Not to fight you, not to hide from you, but to show you another way. To be the universe's answer to entropy itself. The final battle wasn't fought with weapons or even with reality-warping powers. It was fought with the one thing the Morphants had never encountered in all their existence, the power to create something genuinely new. As the cosmic horrors tried to flee, they found themselves caught in the web of new realities humanity was spinning. Not to trap them, but to offer them a choice they had never had before, the chance to be more than what they were. The transformation swept through the solar system like a wave of pure possibility. When it was over, the Morphants were gone, not destroyed, but changed into something else, something that even humanity's newly awakened consciousness could barely comprehend. It's done, Elena whispered, her consciousness gradually returning to her physical form on the Hyperion's bridge. But this isn't the end, is it? No, Maya answered, her thoughts reaching through the quantum network one last time. It's the beginning. We're not what we were before the sleep, and we're not what the Morphants were. We're something else entirely. Admiral Zhang's presence rippled through the network. The question is, what do we do now? The answer came not from any individual, but from the collective understanding of what humanity had become. They were no longer just a species, no longer merely conscious beings. They were the universe's answer to its own greatest question: what comes after evolution? The final dawn broke over Earth, illuminating a world forever changed. Humanity had faced its ultimate test not by fighting or hiding, but by becoming something new. And in doing so, they had changed not just themselves, but the very nature of consciousness in the universe. The stars beckoned, not as places to explore or conquer, but as partners in the greatest transformation of all, the evolution of reality itself.